For many victims of domestic violence, everyday life is hell on earth.
It can be something as simple as me doing my makeup. It'll be a breakdown. The fights will start.
We spoke with a young mother who doesn't want to be identified because she is now in hiding after fleeing years of abuse that took a potentially deadly turn.
He started intimidating me with his guns. I fled. That was the breaking point.
The guns?
The guns. Yeah.
She sought a restraining order, but proving her case was tough. A judge initially refused to grant one and denied her immediate sole custody of her child.
I know I'm no good dead, so I had to leave her.
It's okay.
I had to leave her. I had to allow her to go back there.
After repeated attempts, she got custody and a restraining order, forcing the man she accused of abuse to relinquish his guns.
The hope is them removing their guns or have to turn in their guns, will keep you safe.
That sense of safety was shattered, she says, after a new controversial federal court ruling that lets certain people accused of domestic violence keep their guns.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in Texas looked at the case of a man who was challenging the federal law that bans guns for people who are subject to restraining orders.
The court, covering Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, ruled that law was unconstitutional, calling it an outlier that our ancestors would never have accepted. Language the Supreme Court also used in a New York ruling last summer.
This is strictly because domestic violence was not considered a crime by the founders. Was it a law back then? Does it have roots in our American history and tradition? If it wasn't, then it doesn't have to stand.
It's devastating.
The ruling has stunned domestic violence victim advocates like Carmen McDonald with the Los Angeles Center for Law and Justice.
It's not even logical. 230 years ago, women didn't have the right to vote. Slavery was legal. Domestic violence laws weren't even on the book. Marital rape was legal.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland blasted the circuit court ruling, petitioning the Supreme Court to decide on the case. DOJ telling the High Court more than 1 million acts of domestic violence occur in the United States every year, and the presence of a firearm increases the chance that violence will escalate to homicide.
This is where we are. So one has to hope that the Supreme Court, including Clarence, will realize the error of their ways and will rectify that error by saying that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals got it wrong and Clarence got it wrong, and that this whole strict constructionist view of our Constitution got it wrong, that it is a living, breathing document, that we did need a Securities and Exchange Commission to be able to impose civil penalties on financial fraud. Whenever somebody was hurt by it, they could bring a case, and that the Federal Election Commission, which is, kind of toothless as it is, deserves to be in existence, even though it levels penalties on businesses through administrative decisions, administrative adjudication. See, they're going after the entire administrative state by saying exactly what they're saying in this gun case, that if there was no EPA, if there was no Consumer Financial Protection, even though that's a weird one, they're going after the way that it's funded, but they'll find a way. They'll find a way to do away with the SEC, the FEC, the EPA, the Department of Education, you name it. The entire administrative state is what they have in their sights. The FDA with the mifepristone, it's all a piece of the same attack on the administrative state and the modern interpretation of our Constitution. Our Constitution obviously did not contemplate women being people. It obviously did not contemplate women voting. It obviously did not contemplate free black men and women. It obviously did not contemplate the Environmental Protection Agency. And they have got it in their minds that they are right and that if it didn't exist when the nation was founded, it can't exist today. And that is where this court is going to try to take us. And like you've learned the hard way, okay? You felt it. The Supreme Court of all the branches has much more to do with your intimate life than you would think it should or does. But it does. It can say that religious fundamentalists can have their day and that there should be no such thing as gay marriage. They can say that religious fundamentalists can have their day and there should be no such thing as women making reproductive decisions with their families or with their doctors, because the fundamentalists on this court don't think that that existed at the founding, and therefore it can't exist now. And that anything that we have decided for ourselves as we self-governed through 200 and some odd years, anything that we decided for ourselves along the way that wasn't a decision that was made by the founding fathers is now an illegitimate choice. It's not anchored in the Constitution, and therefore it cannot exist in America. Now, you know, this is all a ruse. This is all a game. This is all a scam. This is all a sham. This is all an attempt to place minority religious beliefs, and it is a minority of religious beliefs, because even if you look at, Catholic women want to be left alone, okay? They don't want to be told they can't have contraception, even though, they're Catholic women. I grew up with a bunch of Catholic friends. I mean, almost everyone, all my friends are either Catholic or Jewish, okay? It's just the way it is. And, like Terry and her sisters and all them 9 kids, they all went to confirmation. Every one of them had an altar in their room. It got to the point where, you entered their kitchen and there was a big bleeding heart Jesus over the sink. But you can't tell Terry she can't have contraception. And you can't tell Terry that, God forbid, a pregnancy goes bad, that she should bleed out or she should get septic. I mean, we're not idiots, So it is a minority religion, and it is a minority view in this country that if it didn't exist in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s even, that it shouldn't exist now. That's where they want to lead us, because it's minority rule. It's the tyranny of the minority. And when you say minority, I hope you understand we're talking about 6 individuals. You can't get a much smaller group of people to make massive decisions for this country. You couldn't have a smaller minority than 6 people. And this is where we are, and this is what we're facing. And the only decent part of this is we get to vote after we find out.